answers at some point. Grids. Yes, grids can be very tricky, but once you learn how it works, I don't think it's too bad, right? It's quite a nice way of laying out things in 2 dimensions, so columns and rows. We have absolutely no starter code here. So, you can see what we've got to lay out essentially, yeah? A 2-column layout, 3 rows, 5 items, and on the tablet, does it look any different? No, still the same, so that's useful, right? Still 2 columns and 3 rows. What else does the question say? Not much that we can't see from the picture, yeah? Just the internal gutter's got to be 20 pixels and the gap between them is 10. Cool. What markup shall I have first and foremost? No, it says Flexbox offers a good approach to unidirectional layouts. However, if we want columns and rows, use grid, is what it's suggesting. So, Damiano's just finished. I don't know what's going on there. Let's have a div. Do I put a class name? Nope. It's HTML. So, yeah, we could use container, absolutely. Oh, even one of those. No, still can't do it. Container, cool. What goes inside my container? All of the items. Yep. So we could have how many more? 5. Yep. Let's have 5 items, right? So we got class equals our item. And let's close it off again. Yep. 4 more of these. Oh, where'd it go over there? That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. What was the phrase? Grid. Can. Be. Oops, no space. Very tricky. Yep. Looks fine. Alright. So, how would I set up a grid container in my CSS? Yep, so my selector is going to be .container and display grid. Anything else I can put for the actual grid container? Grid template columns, yep, so you want to specify what columns we're going to use. So grid template columns. So Mumteam's suggested 1FR, 1FR. Do we agree?
We can do, I think, auto even. Auto and
Well,
that might
some people have used auto and then that's messed up the margins or the padding a little bit, right? So I'd prefer that you use fractional units. That's generally the way that we go. I know some people have asked me questions and it's not working. There's just a slight bit in the middle that's not lined up. And that's because they've used auto rather than using the 1FR, 1FR. So try and go with fractional units, yeah? Anything else for that one? Yeah, the gap between them set to 10 pixels. So we could also have a grid gap property and set that equal to 10 pixels. Internal gutter. So the internal gutter doesn't go on the container, does it? Otherwise that would just mean we'd have some padding around all of our items because our container contains them. So we can put the padding on the items, and that's of 20 pixels. What are we missing? Anything? The background color and the text color, you say? Yep. So color is black for the text. And the background is lime. Alright. Anything else needed, or will that be okay? Do we need to specify the rows, or is that taken care of for us? Yeah, I think it's taken care of, right? Because we specify 2 columns and it just drops down to the next row if we run out of fractional units. Alright. Anyone want to test my elegance? Have I missed any semicolons as usual? Or does it look okay? Alright, let's have a go. We've got confetti. Did we get... Oh, and no elegance. Good start, guys. Well done. Oh, I should have really copied that, shouldn't I? Maybe not, because this one is not so much writing the... not so much writing the HTML markup, it's just writing the actual animation and getting it correct. So, yeah, the idea being that we've got a picture of a tennis ball and we want to simulate a bouncing effect even. And to begin with, it should be displayed 15% from the top, and then 1 second later, so some sort of delay in there, it should be 80% from the top. So in other words, quite near the bottom. And a little hint in there, I guess, please run the animation forwards only. Firstly, what do I need in my markup? Anything? Surely something, right? Yeah. So we've got lots of starter code here for us. One's called tennis ball. So I think we definitely need some sort of container or some sort of element that has a class name of tennis ball. So we'll just go with the standard old div again. And give it a class name. Class even. Of tennis ball. Okay. So we've got something now that we can animate inside of. If we're doing an animation, what few things do we need?
Animation name.
Yes, we always need an animation name. So sometimes, depending on what properties we're setting, we can just use the animation shorthand. Sorry, you can't really see again, can you? We can just use the animation shorthand and put the items in there. Or we might want to separate them out into separate properties. So animation name. Bouncy.
Bouncy.
I like bouncy better, so we're going to go with bouncy. Other things that we might need. I always forget these ones, but
Yes, animation fill model, forward.
yeah. So this little thing I said over here that is a hint, forwards. So there's only one animation property that can take a value of forwards, to my knowledge, and that is animation fill mode. Animation fill mode. So we set that one to forwards. We want some sort of duration, I imagine, yeah, because it said after 1 second, I think somewhere, did it? Yeah, 1 second later it should be displayed at 80%. So we can have an animation duration. And this can take either milliseconds or seconds, so we're going to go with 1 second. Anything else?
Yes, we can. We have to add the top 15%.
Yeah, so we need some starting reference for our tennis ball. So we've got the width, we've got the left. I guess it makes sense to put top near left. And this is going to be 15% to begin with. And then we need to animate it from this starting value to a finishing value, which would be 80%. So how would we do that?
Keyframe.
Yeah, so when we have an animation, we've given it some properties, but we need to actually animate it. And that's what the at keyframes is for. Sorry, so at keyframes and then bounce. Yep. So that needs to go up there, doesn't it? Bouncy. And then inside we have some sort of keyframe reference or some sort of point during the animation. That could be, let's say, like a 10%, you know, at 10% through the animation, then do something or animate it to that. Or we've got some keywords. We've got from, we've got to, yeah, things like that. So what makes sense to use in this case?
To.
Yeah, I think the keyword to is a really good one to use in this case. We could probably also get away with doing 100%.
I'm doing like that.
You do it like 100%? Yeah. Okay, and that works all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we put the point that we want to declare our animation, and then inside goes the property. So in this case, we're changing the top reference from 15 to 80%. Have I written that wrong? No, it's happy with me now. Anything else?
No, it's done.
It's done. So we've given it, just to recap, we've given it a name, we've given it a fill mode and a duration. What's another common thing you often see on animations? If we wrote it shorthand, the first three things are name, duration, and the third one. One of it. No, transitions and animations are separate. Infinite, would that be one of the values? Certainly ease is one of the values, or ease in. What's that called? You can also specify a Bezier curve if you want your own custom way of doing an animation. No, so it'd be the animation timing function, yeah? We don't need it in this case, but just know that they are often specified, yeah? The animation timing function. Rather than it just going linear, I can't say that word, in a straight line, rather than it just going evenly in a straight line, the animation, then you can add some sort of ease in or ease out effect. So maybe if you want that bouncing ball, then it would initially drop slower and then speed up and then slow down and things like that. Yeah, so you could do all of that sort of animation with a timing function. Right, let's see if that works, I guess. So yeah, to recap, we gave it a name, a duration, a fill mode. We gave a starting value of the property that we want to animate in the actual element, and we gave a finishing value inside of the keyframes. And because there was just one endpoint that we're interested in, we could use the to keyword, or we'll test it in a second and just check that we can use 100% as well. Okay, let's give that a test. Always worries me when it takes so long, but we did get the confetti and no elegance either. So that is all good. Or we could have used 100% here. And the same result, yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't play the animations, we can't see it, but we can just see where it ended up. Right, the ball ended up down the bottom. So it started there, ended up down the bottom. And if you're wondering why it looks like it's touching the top and we specified a top of 15, I imagine it's the center point of the ball that we're specifying, as far as I can see. And then 80% from the bottom will be 20% up, yeah? Sorry, 80% from the top will be 20% up, the center of the ball. Cool, yeah, but there's lots of resources out there that you can, if you don't want to create your own sort of vector images, or you don't want to create your own CSS little images like this, then it's not too hard, this one, right? Just draw a circle, but and then two other circles that sort of overlap. That's all these are, and they're just clipped, I imagine. Then there are lots of resources out there, and I can share them with you if you want at a later time. You don't have to do everything from scratch, but to know how to do the animations is very useful. Alright, more grid. So this one looks very similar to what we had last time, so I'm kind of wishing I did copy and paste the code, but I'll have to write it out again. And yeah, there's just one slight difference that I can see. What's that? To the first question, we had still a 2-column, 3-row layout on the first question, but this time we've got a what? Oh, is there a media query as well? Do we? Okay, so we definitely need a media query. I hadn't even checked that, but yeah, okay, I can see that we need a media query because the tablet is different. But as well as that, these aren't even, are they now, the columns? This one is 2 times larger. So we need to do some slight difference there. So we can set it up as before. We can have a div with what inside? Yeah, let's have a container class again. How many items do I need? 5 items again, yeah. So I'll just make all those divs for now as well. What goes inside of these divs this time? Just numbers, yeah, 1 to 5. So I'll copy this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it, right? And then stick my numbers inside, just as a bit of text. So will this be an actual number? Will this be passed as a number by the browser, or will this be some other data type? It's inside of an element like this. Does HTML understand numbers? It's just a text node, right? This is just a text node. So this will be 1 as a bit of text, 2 as a bit of text, and so on. I suppose we need class item as well, don't we? Don't we? Would have been easier if I'd done this before, but never mind. Cool. Next, I assume at some time we're going to need, at some point we're going to need a container, and we're going to need an item. Alright, you told me earlier, was it display grid? Okay, and we also had grid template columns. What's the value of grid template columns this time? What was that? Yeah, so this time we want our second column to be twice as big as the first. So using fractional units, that's quite easy. We can just have 1FR and then 2FR for the second column. We have our items. Let's see. So what else do I need to do? Say again?
On the container, there is a grid gap as well.
There's a grid gap, is there?
Yeah, it says every single internal and
External gutter. Okay, so we can have a grid gap of 10. So is grid gap external gutter or internal gutter? What does that refer to? Don't think so. So I know what the question says, but I'm asking you, what is grid gap? What does grid gap set? Does it set the internal gutter or the external? Yeah, exactly. Grid gap sets the external, and we'd have to use what for the internal? Padding? Yeah, yeah. So I can put my padding on my items again. Yeah. 10 pixels. Please align the text to the middle. How would we do that? Text align, maybe. In the container, does that work? Text align center you used, did you? Okay. Right, that's most things. We need a color as well. Background. Does maroon exist? Did someone say no and someone say yes? Does it exist? Is that what we'd put? Maroon, yeah? Cool. So recognized word. Media queries then.
we need the size, I think.
Size still? Font size.
Font size.
Okay. 25 pixels. Cool. Is it media query now? So at media screen and where do the brackets go? Here? Max width, what? 5. If the screen width is less than 500, so you're going for 499, are you? Yeah, technically I'd say so. It's a bit fussy, but hey, let's be fussy. Let's be precise.
You don't have to write screen and you can just leave it media.
We can drop the screen and?
Like this.
Okay. What goes inside? The crucial bit, how do we go from this layout, 2 columns, 3 rows, to that layout, 1 row?
No, actually, we did something wrong on the container.
Already done something wrong on the container, have we?
Yeah, we need to specify 1 effort, 2 effort, then 1 effort, 2 effort.
I put line 3 in the media query, and then I set a media query for the tablet mode.
I did like 3 efforts, 1 effort, 2 effort, then 1.
So you want to do it this way around, you want to do mobile first, yeah?
Again, 2 effort, and last. And in the media query, just 1 effort, 2 effort.
So this is the thing that we're changing. We're changing the column layout. What's it complaining about? So now we want a min width, right? Of 500. Because we... Why max width? Isn't that
Because
my desktop view?
no, because that goes automatically on the desktop, and the media query we're writing, that should be up to maximum 500. Because
So the mobile, it's 1 FR, 2 FR, and then the top line 3 for the desktop or tablet mode.
Oh yeah, sorry. Mobile's that, and then tablet's that. My mistake. So, max. So do I need to get rid of the brackets, Simon? Is that why it's complaining? No?
You have to write the name of the class inside.
Oh yeah, missing that, aren't we?
You use this one.
Much better. Are we happy? Which do I want to try and copy? Try and copy that if I need it for the next one. All good. And no elegance. Just in case the next question's slightly similar, let's take all of that code. And it's nowhere near similar because it's an animation. Alright. Create a fading notification system. It's faded completely because I can't see anything. Where's, okay, success after da da da. Alright. So we are given no code at all. Should we create a little container again to host it, or what do you want to do?
Just a div with
That's the
successful.
yeah.
So you want to call it success?
Yep.
So we need a class, I think.
You don't need one.
Just only the.
It's a bit dangerous, right? Just having only divs, because if you do your styles for only divs, you're going to style most of your application, I think, with this animation.
Yeah.
I know there's not anything in this case, but just to prevent errors further down the road. Success. Loves that data list, doesn't it? Oh, now we've got dialogue. Alright.
We need names.
Need a what?
So inside the div, we need to name success. That should be
With an exclamation mark?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, double C. Okay. Then what?
Specify the background color with the font.
Do you want me to do that as a default, or you want me to do that as part of the animation settings?
The line is section. I didn't get that correct. Like I said, the opacity.
So you animated the opacity.
Yeah, like tried to. I didn't get that
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, there's a few ways to do it. So you want to try the opacity?
But it didn't work, so
Oh, it didn't work.
Similar got it right.
Yeah, I will.
Do you use display, or do you use?
Opacity.
So you did do opacity. Yeah, it should work with opacity. So shall I just call it success again, I guess? So do you want to use 1 second again for the duration? And it says animation forwards only. There's no delay. Don't think I have to enter all these, so I guess it's going to be linear, and I'll leave it at that. And then we can also add on an animation. What was this forwards for again?
Fill.
Fill mode, yep. Animation fill mode.
Forwards.
Forwards again, yeah. So we can have forwards, we can have backwards, or we can have both. So backwards and forwards. They are the options. Somewhere we're going to need an at keyframes. And this time we've got more finely grained controls, right? At 0.1 seconds it should be visible. However, it was invisible to begin with. And then it's again not visible at the end. So after 90% of the time, we want the opacity to be what? Yeah, so it changes from visible to invisible at that 90-second point. So we need to make it invisible. So making it invisible is opacity. Okay. And then what are our other key points? So 0.1 it becomes visible. Yeah, 10% is a key point, I guess. And that could be opacity 1, are you saying? Mm-hmm. So what is our original opacity? Yep, 0. I need my name again. I always miss out my name, so that should be not bouncy this time, but success. Is that enough?
You need the 100% because 1 second not visible.
Do we need 100%?
On the old success rate, I think we specify the width, otherwise it's just laps to the text.
How wide is it? Ah, yep, good spot. So it needs to be 100% width here. That's sort of another cheeky way you could have done it, I guess, by animating the width to hide it, but 100% width is okay. So the only question now, oh no, we need to make it green. The box is green and black.
The color of text.
Yeah, so color black, background green. So we just need to make sure whether these are correct now.
We need the 100%.
I don't think we do need 100%, but we can put it in and then we can take it out and see whether it needs it. Zero. So it hasn't changed, you see? So see what I mean? From 90 to 100, it just hasn't changed. So if it was changing, we'd need it. Oh, nope. So mobile.
It's a week. Get rid of the week.
Well, that's a really weird. Oh no, it says great. The solution's correct, but I didn't get any confetti.
Yeah, it's the week. 100%.
Oh, because that one's fine, and then this one is not. So it was invisible after half a second. So it was always invisible, in other words.
Yes, exactly. You have to.
No, but I think on the 90% it should be 1. Even. Yeah.
Okay, then
No.
it's
It
yeah.
should be. It should
Actually,
be.
one.
Yeah, basically it should be.
Right.
It should be still visible after.
Is opacity 1 visible or invisible? I always get mixed up with opacity. So 0 opacity means invisible. Is that what they're saying? Yeah.
That should be 1.
So at 90 it should be.
Yeah, because 0.9 seconds.
So should it still be 0 at 10 then?
No, that should be 1. The first, on the 10 second, it will be visible, that means 1. On 90%, it should be 1 and 100% is 0.
Instead goes on 91 and 100.
Yeah, 1 and 0.
Still not displaying though.
Yeah, and the width. The width 100%.
But the width is always 100%.
Yeah. Let's delete that and then try.
Delete it, you say?
Yeah.
Why?
What is it specified top? See, when we've got this one, right? Didn't we? They specify top or bottom on this? Where's the go?
Now I'm not sure, you know. After
Is it because of the way I've written this?
I lost the concept. Maybe because of that.
But I just put the image name and the duration. That's it.
Nation duration, maximum full mode, opacity. So it's invisible to begin with. Da -da -da -da. Success, success, matches up, success. Okay, sorry, it's because of the way I'd written the animation, combining the shorthand and the written names. So I'm just curious if we got rid of that. See you, Stephanie. No. Okay, so we did need all three. Yeah, so at 10% it's visible. Oh, what's happening now? At 90% it is visible, and at 100% it is not visible based on the question. Cool, so same sort of things. Give it a name, give it a duration, a fill mode in this case. We used opacity to control the toggle at various points, or control the display at various points, and then just set the style of our elements. All good. The last one, if it wakes up. Oh no, it has woken up. Sorry, I haven't woken up. The fixed and dynamic dimensions. I copied opacity. That's annoying. Otherwise, I could have copied my previous stuff. How many containers do we need?
At least one container.
At least one. Good answer. Let's go with 2. Yeah, if we use flex, let's go with 2 containers. But 1 for each row. Alright. And in...
Somebody is playing today? Arsenal.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Oh, we just moved on to football conversations. Fair enough. Simov, if you're bored, you can come and do it for me.
No, thanks.
No? Okay. Save it for your presentation. So, we have some items in here again, I assume. And maybe we need some additional classes as well. Bless you. So let's give them additional classes. 2 of them are remaining. Those ones remaining. And or px60, yeah, that'll do, but yeah, and this is 80 pixels. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 things at least, 4 selectors that I need to style. I've got a container. Oops, I have an item. Oh, that's remaining, which we might not need to style. I haven't decided yet. We need an is 60 pixels, and we need an is 80 pixels. Cool. I imagine these are going to be fixed width, right?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
I did another way. I use flex.
We're definitely going to use flex.
Flex 0060. Flex 0080 pixels. I did like that.
Okay. So we're going for display flex. What other things do we need?
And flex wrap.
flex wrap. Why? Because we've got 2 rows. Why do we need flex wrap?
I did flex
Why do we even need that?
wrap.
You don't need that.
I don't think we need any of those.
But yeah,
because
but
we
I
have
really.
separate 2 divs, so we don't
Yeah.
need the flex wrap.
But,
If we would have one container, then we would
Yes,
need
but
flex
that-
wrap.
You have 1 container or 2 containers?
so
2.
Alright, so we've got internal. Box on the right have an internal and external gutter of 5. Does that mean they need a margin as well then?
yeah, but
Yes. And text is white by default, isn't it? Okay. Now, the remaining width.
it's gonna be the flex one.
Yes, it is going to be flex 1.
Flex one.
So it grows or shrinks based on how much space is left. However, will that occupy the full 100% width?
It's up to how you want to do it.
Yeah, I
Because
think
see that Mountain and Max did this in
I think as it is, it will be slightly different. Ooh. I can never tell anything from those, so I have to go down here. So what we expected was that. What we got. Oh, I didn't write any text inside there. That's why. But it's looking fairly good. Apart from this one isn't a fixed width for some reason. The bottom one. That's interesting. Is 80 pixels? Is 8? Ah, I didn't put a dot there. See, I missed my dot off on my class name. If I rerun that again without the text inside, it should have the right sort of format at least. Yeah? So it looks good. Remaining 60, 80, remaining. So now we just need to write the actual text inside. What did it say?
okay.
Remaining 60 pixels. Okay, yeah. I've still forgotten whether it was capital or not. It was capital. Thank you. This one is 80 pixels. This one is 60 pixels. And we're all good. So I think that's probably the simplest way to do it. It's the least amount of CSS code at least. Yeah, just display flex, have some margin padding, color, flex 1 for the one that you want to grow, and the fixed widths for the ones that you want to have a fixed width. Let's have a look, see how anyone else did it. Simon, did you want to share yours?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I can share yours.
My one.
Yeah, Mum. Whoa. Swear I didn't click anything. Let's try again. Do you want to do any JavaScript after this? No? Anyone who did do JavaScript expert, do you want to do any JavaScript?
It would be good to go over one version ones.
Which one's that? Which question number?
On the nested object. So
Okay.
I had it so that it worked on the first iteration.
Yeah.
So the recursion would work if it was an object within an object, but if it was an object within an object within an object, it wouldn't work. So
Interesting.
yeah, that's what I struggled with.
Okay, maybe we'll take your solution and make it work. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah? Cool. I'll just share. I'll just share Simon's solution first to this CSS solution. I think everyone did the first one very similarly. Bum, 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 bum. I'll take a look at Gideon's solutions as well to the expert JavaScript, see if they look familiar. Bum, 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 bum. Where are you? Left, was it?
Left side.
Sorry, yeah. Cool. So the markup was the same, I think. Oh, you got item 1 and item 2 instead. So everything had an item. Item 1 was remaining. Item 2, 60p. Yeah, fair enough. So just a bit different. It's a bit confusing though, I guess, what item 1 to 4 actually are. So try and name them a little bit more descriptive. And I think the only difference was, yeah, you've used 0, 0, 60. So what does that mean? Well, that means you've set both your flex grow and your flex shrink values to be 0. So in other words, don't grow or don't shrink. And then what space should you occupy? 60 pixels. So that's absolutely fine as well. So whatever you prefer using, and I suppose if you're using Flexbox, it makes sense to use flex as much as possible. But the archaic width still works in this case. Yeah, width has been around for ages, and we can give our elements a fixed width if that's what they need. Other than that, oh, so someone used flex auto for the remaining. That was Max. Yeah, and that's another option as well. And I was almost tempted to do that as well. Yeah, so no real difference there. I think Chris was the same. Flex 1.
So this
Giving it
flex
fixed
auto is mean that is like flex 1.
Yeah, it will.
It is just doing all the space.
Yeah. In this case, yeah, just doing all the space, everything that's left. And then Jonathan was trying lots of things, yeah? So you're trying to make it grow lots by giving it a flex grow 2. So you use flex basis rather than the width. It's very close. It might have been because you had like a flex wrap and then one container like that. I think that's probably where you run into trouble with your actual markup rather than the CSS. So just take out the flex wrap and just create 2 rows, 2 containers instead. I think you'd be fine. Yeah. Cool. Let's see if I can find the JavaScript question, and then we'll leave it there. Someone's getting really excited for this bit of JavaScript. Okay, so it wasn't the first one, I take it. Get max value. Wasn't that one either you meant, was it, Cameron?
Sorry, I'm on YouTube, so I'm not a second behind you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was that one. Okay, yeah, we can do that one. I'll just check what other ones you had. Yeah, so that one's actually just a one-liner, question 3, and you do have to use the call method, which we haven't covered yet, and we're covering the last week. Call, apply, and bind. And you just have to pass in a certain object as the this value, and that in this case was season. Otherwise, you're going to struggle a bit. Just enables you to change the value of this to reference something. Why it doesn't work? Wasn't that one, no, Cameron? The why it doesn't work one.
Yeah, it was that one.
It was that one, not question 2. Okay, so we'll take that as your starting code, or we can do question 2 or both. I don't mind. Sort by trend. Oh, I was wondering where only unique was. There it is. Yeah. Quite nice solutions by Gideon. Right, let's see if we can spot what went wrong with this one. Let's get rid of all these. Okay, it's not going to let me do it from there. Let me go back in. Was it pretty recursion heavy? Was it this this expert training? So that one's really not too bad, the max value, so I might just show you that one as well. Oh, okay, so you were given starter code, were you? So what did you change, Cam? You took out the brake,
Yeah.
but you didn't change much else, did you?
I just think I panicked really.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you don't solve it the first couple of times and you panic and you make it worse.
Hmm.
That's what happened.
So you're saying it worked for certain solutions, but not for
Sorry,
others.
no, it was the second one that I was talking about.
Oh.
No, that one does work for one solution.
But in other words, it always returns false, this one.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah. So if we haven't got an object, and you're just returning object prop equals number, so it will return true or false for just the first number it comes across. But the problem is, as soon as it hits a number, it's going to return that result. So this one's evaluating 4 and gets false. This one evaluates 2 and gets false, and this one evaluates 5 and gets false. So the problem is, as soon as it hits a number, it jumps out and returns something. So you'd either have to store it in a variable and then see whether your array at the end returned true, yeah, that's probably what I'd try and do, but I don't think it was the way Gideon did it. Let's see what method he used. Oh yeah, he did store it in an array. Look, see? Let result equals object.values, then mapping over, and then check whether the result includes true. So you could do something similar. So in other words, we could just create a check array or something like that. So let, I don't know what to call it, checked array equal empty array to begin with. And then we don't actually return anything, we just do checked array dot push the result of our comparison. Yeah. Otherwise, we're calling the function again so that we can actually get a number and push it into the array. So at the end of this, if I return the checked array, we should have an array of the length of the number of numbers in the question. So let's see what that returns. No, we're only getting it once in the loop. So we've got false, false, false. Ooh. So the checked array. So the problem is that is we're reinitializing our array each time. Still just getting the one. Oh. No. These are the hardest ones because you're forced into someone else's design pattern, aren't you? Which might be not the way you'd solve the problem. Might have to have a look at that one myself, sorry, and then see what we get. So this one's a bit simpler, the get max value. We've just got one object as our input. I'll just call it data. We just want object.values. So we can say let values equals object.values of the data. So what have we got at this point?
You've got an array of the values.
Yep, so we just got an array of, in this case, 2, and then an object. So we can map over those. And we can test the individual values. And we can do some sort of check. So we could do something like type of value equals object. So if that's true, then we want to just call our function again, which is called getMaxValue. With the value passed in. Otherwise, just wondering whether to store the candidate max in a variable. So candidate max. That's not you, Max. This is a maximum value. Yeah. You're irreplaceable, Max. So let the candidate max equal either the result of calling the function again or just the number, right? Yeah, or just the value. And then we can decide. Let me just write it outside for now. We can decide something like if candidate max is greater than existing max, then so if the candidate max is greater than the existing max, then we set that as the new max. If it's less than, then we keep the old maximum. But I think we don't want to map over each one because we just want one value at the end. If we use reduce, then we can have a max value to begin with. So then at the end of that, our accumulator becomes either the candidate max if it was greater than the original max, or we just keep the old maximum value. I think all of these are positive, or they've at least got some positive ones there. So therefore I could initialize my accumulator. So I could set my default max value to be 0. And I'm thinking we're probably good to go. What's up? Oh, thank you, yeah. Yep, and then we're good to go. Oh, apart from all the terrible semicolon things. Semicolons, one there. One there. Indentation. that one, and I think that's perfect. Cool. Yeah, so the idea of that being, firstly we just get out the values because we're not interested in the keys, and then we reduce that array of values down to one single value, because that's all we're interested in, right? The actual maximum number. So that's why we initialize the maximum as the accumulator and the value as what we're currently inspecting. Then we just created a variable that we can compare to the existing accumulator, and if it's greater, that becomes the accumulator. Yeah, whatever we return from a reduce function becomes the accumulator in the next iteration. So if the type of value was an object, we said, hang on, an object is not a number, so we can't compare that directly. We need to call the max value function again and get the values of that object. And then hopefully by the time we get down here, we haven't got an object anymore, and we can actually set that value in a variable and compare it to the existing accumulator. So there's a lot going on here. Hopefully it's a short example. Yeah. So based on our code, what is our accumulator to begin with? 0, because we initialize it to 0. And then what is the what is the current value on our first iteration of our reduce? That one. 2. So we say let candidate max equals, is the type of value an object? Nope, type of value is a number. Yeah, it's the number 2. So therefore we say candidate max is equal to the value. Come down here, return 2 greater than 0. That is true. So therefore we return the number 2 on that first iteration. So our number 2 is the accumulator going into the next iteration. Our current value is in the second iteration. It's that whole object. Yep. So then what do we do? Well, max is 2, value is an object. So this bit of the code will be true. So that means we call the function again. We'll come back up to the top. We've still got that 2 stored in memory somewhere, but this is a totally new function. This is a fresh function. So therefore when we say let values equal object.values, we get an array of 1 and 4. And what is our max value here? It's 0 again now, yeah, because that 2 is off in another dimension. It's on pause, yeah? So the max is 0, the value is going to be 1. And we go through the same process. Is 1 greater than 0? Yep. Cool. Move on to the next loop in the reduce. Next value is 4. Yeah, so it's not an object, it's a number. So we've set that into candidate max. Is 4 greater than 1? Absolutely. So that will be the return of our reduce function, the number 4. And then we are back at this stage on that first function. So now we've said let candidate max equals the result of calling that function again. So the candidate max is 4 in that first function. And we can do the final comparison. Is 4 greater than our current max, which was 2. And therefore 4 is our final return value from that first invocation of get max value. Best way is to, I guess, just write out that code again, put some breakpoints on line, definitely line 5 probably, maybe even line 6 as well, and you can see how the reduce function will work and how it gets invoked again, the accumulator getting reset and things like that. But yeah, that's combining the reduce function, which is not that easy to understand, and recursion as well. And as for question 4, I have to just take a little look at it. Cam, sorry, and I'll get back to you. Okay. Any questions on that bit of code? If not, we'll wrap it up there. So sometimes it is easier just to store things in a variable when using recursion. Then you've got something to directly compare on your next function or your next loop. Otherwise, we could just have invoked getMaxValue again, and we would have lost that value to compare to our first function. If we store it in a variable, it's a lot easier. Okay, I'll stop the stream there.